Welcome today to this episode of And the EGOT Goes To, which is a breakdown and predictions podcast for the major U.S.-based award shows. Today we are live at BroadwayCon. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is our panel. Ashley Hufford is a content creator with over a decade of experience ranging from sports to politics to theater. In 2020, she started making TikToks about Broadway from her bedroom and has slowly built a community based on loudly loving the shows you love and making theater more accessible to all. JT Tranberg is an actor, digital influencer, and theater fanatic. He fell in love with theater when he was 3 years old and performed his first original song for his parents in their living room. The rest is history. He has now dedicated his spare time and energy to exploring all things theater and all things New York City, striving to help others live their best life on a budget. Kate Reinking is a content creator on a mission to see as much theater as possible and influence everyone to do the same. Catch them in a theater from Berkeley to Broadway and everywhere in between, and is currently on a 30-day theater road trip.
Welcome to day 11.
My name is Spencer Scher, and I'm the host and producer of the podcast And the EGOT Goes To, and I'm one of the rotating hosts for the international musical theater podcast Thrash and Treasure, in addition to co-producing the podcast around the world in 80 plays. In addition to podcasts, I am an aspiring theatrical producer, and made my New York City producing debut earlier this week at 54 Below.
Yeah!
Woo, 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 woo! Today we'll start by talking about this past season, which was an insane one. And to start off a conversation, what was everyone's favorite play and favorite musical from this past season? We'll start down there at the end with Kate.
Oh, Stereophonic. Stereophonic, hands down. My favorite musical this season was The Notebook, which got, shafted. But of the ones nominated, I guess Outsiders.
Oh, for me, Pearly, and this is recency bias, because I finally saw it, but Hell's Kitchen.
Off the panel.
That's why I immediately said Hell's Kitchen and moved to the side a little bit.
I literally had to be like, what was this season? I don't remember a single show. Unfortunately, for lack of fun, I have to copy Kate's answers because Stereophonic and The Notebook were also my favorites. But if we're going for what was nominated, it was Outsiders. It was Hell's Kitchen. It was
Suffs.
Suffs was my favorite. That was nominated. Thank you. I just could not remember because it feels like the Tony Awards were 2 years ago.
It really does.
100%.
All my favorite shows this year have been off Broadway, but my favorite, I'm going to copy you, Stereophonic and Suffs.
Yeah.
Now, this past season on Broadway, there were 39 shows that opened, 15 new musicals, 6 revivals of musicals, 20 new plays, and 5 play revivals. That doesn't make sense. Oh, that is math. That's not math.
We're theater kids?
Yeah, we're not good at that.
That won't make the final cut.
Sing the math song from Mean Girls.
This is correct, though. Of those 39 shows, 19 were open-ended runs, of which 9 are still playing.
Oof.
Yeah. Now, which of these shows, whether they're open or closed, do we think will have the largest life post-Broadway, whether in the West End, tour, regionally, schools, that sort of stuff?
Great Gatsby.
100%.
Great Gatsby is going to be produced everywhere.
Yeah. Little theaters, colleges, everywhere.
Can't wait for 4 years from now when there's a whole Jimmy's category of just a whole Jimmy's montage of just Daisies and Gatsby singing Green Light. It'll be one entire category.
And one Jordan just, acing new money.
One Jordan slaying in a little bob.
I also think Dark Horse here, Hard Rock and Roll, is going to do
it's going to
extremely
do really well.
I think both regionally and in school.
Anywhere right now that's doing the Jimmy Buffett musical is going to be doing Hard Rock and Roll next year.
100%.
Escape to Margaritaville. They do it at school? Oh, not school, but not schools, but regionally. It's done. I have a friend that works in licensing, and she says that the 2 most popular shows regionally are Mamma Mia and Escape to Margaritaville, which I was like, I would not have. Mamma Mia I probably could have pulled, would never have pulled Escape to Margaritaville. But it makes sense in terms of it's a jukebox musical featuring music that everybody knows and a silly little story that's fun and vibes.
And also just what a fun show.
Yeah. A big cast, lots of open-ended choreography options.
I loved Hard Rock and Roll. It was
Yeah.
like it was probably one of my top 5 of shows I've had this year.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
And I would fight for this because people disagree, but I'm like, it had a solid book for what it was. And this is where I think we get confused because people are like, oh, like, but it wasn't like, it's, and I'm like, things don't have to be like Tony winning, like best thing you've ever read to like be really good for what it wants to be.
But you know what? It should have been Tony winning.
I would have also given it. I think it was one of the best books of the season.
It was a Hallmark movie on stage, and I think that's what people loved about it.
Yeah. I also, obviously, The Outsiders, I think, is going to have a very long life on Broadway because it has taken over the Newsies fandom. Well, the new Newsies fandom. These are the girls that were Newsies fans that were not Newsies fans because they were too young, and now this is that generation's Newsies.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that show will have a nice long life, especially because it is a perfect, in a way that almost Newsies wasn't. The Outsiders is like a book that people read in school. So I think you're going to get a lot of like school field trips when people come to the city. Like, I don't know, when you have your like high school choir trip, like that's a really good show to take them to because it's a show based on a book
that they know,
that they all know.
I don't know. In my my band class, we would watch the VHS. This is going to date me. We would watch the VHS of Newsies all the time. Ooh. I don't know if that's like a universal experience, but it was for me in Colorado.
Well, I'll also say though the shame about Outsiders is like their ticket prices will be cost prohibitive for school groups.
I mean, every show is cost prohibitive for everyone.
But more so, I think, than others.
I will say the group sales for Outsiders are very, very good because of schools.
Yeah, because I think they are making an effort for that because they know that's like when it comes to their longevity, like it's going to be those school groups.
Yeah, for the slow months, it'll definitely be a key for them. Now we're at our first audience questions segment. Does anyone have any questions about this past season or anything they want to talk about or hear about?
So I didn't hate Hell's Kitchen as much last time. I just hate it for the drama. But what was your favorite part about Hell's Kitchen?
Everything. No. I think that Hell's Kitchen. Is there a word for this where, like, I felt like the songs didn't drive the show. Whereas in a lot of jukebox musicals, I feel like the songs drive the show. And I feel like this was a show, and they were like, this would fit well against a backdrop of Alicia Keys songs.
Yeah.
Let's fit them in, right? Whereas I feel like a lot of them are like, how do I make a story around these songs instead of the opposite way? And I don't know, maybe that's not the case, but that's how I feel. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, I completely agree.
And Kate loved.
But it's whether or not you like that.
Yeah. I don't like that approach in jukebox musicals, but I love that you love that. Like that's truly why I love this art form, is because we can see the same thing in the same show and take something completely differently from it.
I love it.
Kate, and I'm sure you loved the Tony-nominated Best Book. In Hell's Kitchen.
That was Harder Rock and Roll's spot, and we all know it.
Yeah.
Luckily, it did not win. Otherwise, Kate would not be here because Kate would have quit theater. Was documented on the podcast.
My apologies. I don't see Christopher Diaz in the audience. My apologies to always hating on his writing in that, because I know he's capable of better.
And we had a lot of fan favorite shows this year, such as Lempicka.
My girl.
That is really, truly one of the best cast recordings released.
I can't stop listening to it.
It's I'm obsessed with it.
3 days ago, Kate sang in the apartment, "Handsome men never learn to fight," and now it's been in my head on repeat for 4 days.
It's literally in my head right now.
Learn to fight.
They always have everything handed to them.
Oh, it's so good. It's like, it's actually on the way up to and back from Boston. I went to Boston to see Gatsby 2 weekends ago. We listened to the entire cast recording, and just like on the way up, it was me, Kate, Milanovic, and my friend Haley, and then the way back, it was Ben, me, Milanovic. We traded Ben and Kate in Boston, and we just scream sang the whole thing, and we were like, this show is so good.
Well, that's another thing, too, talking about life post-Broadway, that we forget about cast recordings. They're an incredibly important way of getting these shows out to the world.
And it's a really good season of cast recordings.
Yeah.
Like I think the Grammys category might be the most intense Grammys Broadway situation that's been in like years.
Well, we might have some off-Broadway stuff in there too.
Yeah, because
you have Teeth, you have Connector.
That Connector album is so good.
The Connector album is
The
so
Connector album
good.
is insane.
Like that's why it's gonna be fun having the. Yeah, it's a good year for cast recordings, and it's nice because we're told so often how expensive cast recordings are and how hard they are to make. And I'm like, no, just give us more cast recordings.
Just let me kickstart it. Come on.
Because I went to the Hell's Kitchen when they did the launch party for it, and they were saying the reason, like Hell's Kitchen, they recorded in Alicia Keys' home studio. And so like most cast recordings, they do like 2 days. They have to record the entire thing in 2 days. At the Amber Amon yesterday said they recorded Limpika the Monday after opening. So they opened the show on Sunday, and then Monday they all had to go and record the cast recording, which is bonkers. But what's cool about Hell's Kitchen is they literally had like unlimited amount of time and unlimited amount of like options. So like if they went in and were like, if like Shoshana Bean went in and was like, I didn't love my like take on that, they were like, come back anytime because this has cost nothing because it's Alicia Keys' house. Yeah.
On Hell's Kitchen, Keisha Lewis versus Shoshana. Why do you think that went the way it did?
Because Keisha has been in the industry longer, I think.
I also think that like Shoshana is consistently always like the most insane thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But Keisha has such that moment in Hell's Kitchen. Like she has, I would say, probably the most like iconic moment of the show, and the way that
100%.
Act One ends is like so sticks with you. And I think that ultimately is probably the reason because that moment is so incredible.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I hate to bring it to like what we expect or what we expect that because we know who the Tony voters are and what we expect the Tony voters to want. I feel like this was that situation where we're like, we're not gonna do that this time. We're gonna like give it to the person that like deserves it and the person that the people know deserves it. And
Well,
I mean, it's a spectacular performance.
I'll also remind you who else was in that category.
Yeah.
Because it was a
was
crazy
nuts.
category. It was Shoshana Bean, Amber Amon, Nikki M. James, Leslie Rodriguez-Kritzer, Keisha Lewis, Lindsay Mendez, and BB Newirth.
And not Joy Woods.
Boo. Tomato. I will say, in regards to Keisha Lewis versus Shoshana Bean, they both are giving fantastic performances.
Incredible.
Shoshana Bean is like giving like vocal acrobatics up there. Keisha Lewis also has an incredible voice, but one of the things that is part of her performance that was not part of some of the other performances in the same category is her physicality in that role and the way that she is like, minor spoilers for Hell's Kitchen, but the way that she is playing an ailing woman who like is like we're literally watching her like fade away. And her physicality in that, and then when she comes out at the end and she's just Keisha Lewis, and you're like, oh, that was an act. Like the way that she is holding her body and doing that entire performance, like that is a huge part that I think, to me, separates her from some of the other performances in the same category.
Well, it reminds me of Marianne Plunkett too, because like in the scene where like she comes in at the before I forgot the name of the song, but like where she's been having Alzheimer's the whole show, and then she comes in for the one thing, and she's like, "You left your," and you're like, "Oh, like this is you're acting, like she's so good." Oh,
yeah, I think that there's a big talent or a big part of being a Broadway performer is not is acting through your song, and I think that she does that very well in this show. Where I'm not saying that Shoshana doesn't, but I definitely have, at least for the performance that I saw, I definitely saw moments where sort of the mom character dropped and we just had Shoshana singing a song and then she came back, whereas I felt like this ailing woman was singing that song to me the entire time. And like the way that the first time she sang was like, oh, it's this music teacher teaching her how to sing this song or how to teach the piano. And then by the time she sang that last song before something happens, we were like, oh, okay, so this is a different, like this woman is like over it. Like she's ready to go. And you can tell through her song. So I think like that played a huge part in why she deserved everything that she
Well, and
did.
that's what I was gonna say too. Is like I just see Shoshana on that stage. Like,
Yeah.
she's not. It's Shoshana.
And I would
whereas-
watch her do
Yeah.
anything, literally
I would
anything.
watch
Literally
her.
anything.
I want to do a
Do
quick thing about. Can we talk about like what a season it is for actors over 50?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I
for
feel like you
sure.
hear all this
Yeah.
time about how it's like really hard to be an older performer, and then this season you're just getting like performance after performance after performance of just like insane performances of older actors, and I love it.
But like
Even in-
like looking at 2025, where we
Say-
have
we're-
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard, Gypsy, maybe Queen of Versailles, where like
Probably.
And you have
very
Idina,
much
who's
same
in
vein,
Redwood, who's-
and Redwood, yeah.
I mean, it's going to
Yeah.
be a wild year. It's again, it's like, and it's so fun and nice to see.
Yeah. Well, and even like Greg Edelman, who's in Water for Elephants.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
like older actors. I mean, you have the Steven Skybells, you have the B.B. Newarts, but then to have people like Greg Edelman, who's an integral part of that
I mean,
show.
even I mean, you and I forgot his name, but he made his Broadway debut in Water for Elephants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God! Yes. And like that's what's it's so cool to like see performers who are like getting to make Broadway debuts in
Yeah.
their 60s. Like what?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's
Stanley
fantastic.
Matthews?
Oh, so good.
He's
so
so great. And I think
Water for Elephants.
what
I need to go back to Water for Elephants. I haven't been since it opened. I need to go see it again.
I went a second time. It got better. It's a fun time.
If you are thinking of going to Water for Elephants, I cannot recommend sitting close and all the way to the side enough, because what Jessica Stone did with that direction in the places that you can't normally see is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it does not matter which side, they're both directed. But yeah, like she directed every single entrance of like them coming on that stage, and I was floored. I
Yeah.
want her to direct more.
What is she doing next? Do we know?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Kimberly Tor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but but I was like, is that doesn't count?
Yeah.
She already did
That doesn't
Kimberly. Which I now I'm going to see in 10 cities because of Carolee
Everybody
Carmello.
should
Yeah,
See it in
Carolee Carmello as Kimberly is.
It's the best
incredible
casted thing I've
casting.
ever heard in my
It's
career.
gonna be great.
Yeah, I mean, even talk about some of the surprises that we got on Tony's night. Great Gatsby winning 100% of the Tonys they were nominated for. Danya Tamor for Outsiders was a pretty big shock.
It was again. It's one of those things
A
where
happy
it's
shock.
shocking, but
Yeah.
also you're like it's deserved. But I'm
Should have gone to Jessica Stone. Just saying.
We finally had a Kara Young win.
Oh, thank goodness.
it's like
Right.
both the least surprising win of the night and the most exciting win of the night. Like I don't think anyone didn't have her winning, but it was also
Yeah.
like still the best.
It was.
Yeah.
It was still great.
Well, like, Kara Young is the kindest human. I mean, Ashley, if you want to tell the story of Kara Young
Was it
last year
last
at
year?
BroadwayCon.
Yeah, last year at BroadwayCon, we were at the K-pop panel, and Kara Young comes over and is handing out flyers for the show up in the Shakespeare show in Harlem. And I was, she was not in. She was just like walking around the ballroom handing out flyers, and I was like, "Thank you, two-time Tony-nominated Kara Young for this flyer."
And we were all sitting there like, why?
I mean, she's done shows with the Harlem Shakespeare
Yeah.
Company before, and like, I just thought it was so great that she's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go around, talk to people, hand out flyers. That's like,
Yeah, it was. She's
the
supposed to be
best.
the kindest. And in Table 17 at MCC.
Table 17 at
so
MCC,
good.
you all must go see.
So good.
They did an
Good,
event,
good.
or they did like a workshop, I guess.
A reading, yeah.
And it was everyone was on book, and they invited a bunch of people, and we all got to go see it. And it looked in a way like Kara had gotten the script for like maybe an hour, and it was still like one of the best acted performances I've ever seen. It was so good. I wept.
I can't wait.
It's very funny, very like, and it's you all should go see it, especially because getting to see Kara at MCC, which is that big, is going to
Yeah,
be.
I think
I
this room is
cannot
bigger than
wait.
MCC.
Oh, it's bigger than both of MCC's
Yeah.
theaters.
Oh,
Anytime
yeah.
you get to see an actor or like an actor of that caliber in that kind of space, you have to go.
And we were talking about older actors. Now let's talk about a younger actor, Malia Joy Moon, winning for Hell's Kitchen right
I'm
at the beginning
so
of her career.
curious what her career is going to look
Yeah.
like because I'm in some ways I can see her going like almost more in the Renee Rapp lane where you're going to see her because her voice is like so
Incredible.
phenomenal. But I'd love to see her in other like Broadway. I'm like,
Or
don't take us.
maybe she stays in Hell's Kitchen for.
Yeah, I mean,
a
Hell's
little
Kitchen's
bit.
probably it's going to be open for a while.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a hit.
Yeah, Kate, say it.
That's great. I love. I don't have to like everything that's successful. That is If it means more people are going to go see theater, I'm a fan.
Well, now to go ahead and talk about this current season that we're in. 30 shows have been announced already.
It is. We're 2 months into this season?
Yeah.
1 month?
It's not even all the shows. There's so many more shows coming.
2 have already closed.
What?
Yeah, Ben Platt and Home.
Oh, Ben Platt doesn't count.
We don't count Ben Platt.
And 2 are currently running.
I didn't realize Home already closed.
Yeah.
Wow.
With Job and O'Mary. And if we're looking at that craziness in April, there's a lot of dates still free, and so they will probably be filled by openings.
They will definitely be filled by openings.
There's a break between Last 5 Years on April 6th and Floyd Collins on April 21st.
I can't believe
that will certainly be
Last
filled.
5 years is not till April, because I feel like they've been doing so much stuff, and I'm like, and then they're like, oh, it starts in February.
Maybe they'll get chemistry before April.
Again, they only need chemistry for 3 minutes. That's all they need. It's 3 minutes of part of a song. Never need to see each other for the rest of it. That's what I'm saying. It's just those 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Winnie White's gonna put a wall in between them, and that's how they're doing the
Actually,
whole show. So they never end up seeing each other.
I trust Whitney White with my life, so I think she's gonna pull it out.
Yeah. Also, with the Jajas this year, Whitney White.
So good.
So good.
So
Wait, my Last 5 Years idea is Nick is just on the road the whole time, and then he just comes in on FaceTime. So you watch Nick sing on a screen, and then it's just Adrian Moore in the theater.
I think I would like
Sold.
that more.
Sold.
He's on tour the whole time.
He's on the roof of the St. James with Tom Francis.
Him and Tom Francis stand next to each other on the roof of the St. James.
Ridiculous.
Now, it seems like, knock on wood, that we are going to survive any Labor Day closings this year.
Nothing's been announced.
Whoa. We just got, oh no, I guess it's almost, we're a month away. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've had a lot of shows announced closings in 2 weeks, but hopefully
Yeah.
we've had enough. I mean, again, not that it always means things, but we've had enough shows announced at least ticket sales through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian, the business analyst, is not here to disagree. So
Yeah, and a bunch of like interesting transfers this year, both from we have Once Upon a Mattress, which is coming from City Center. You have shows like Hills of California that are coming over from the UK that I still know very little to nothing about. Like,
I love The
but have-
Ferryman.
have
I
heard
heard it's
great
like
things.
Gypsy, but in the 70s in a play.
I've heard the performances. Our friends Mickey, Joe, and Aaron loved it, and have said have been raving about it. So, and I really I love The Ferryman, and I love Laura Donnelly from Outlander, but also the theater. She's great.
And Dr. Doom himself, Robert Downey Jr., making his Broadway debut.
Robert.
If you could get
Downey.
those tickets, because I believe is
Yeah.
the entire run sold out.
Yeah, I know all the link ticks are sold out for sure.
Oh, they're.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, there you
So
go.
then I just was paying attention to the link ticks. Good. Rich people to buy all the premium.
But
Perfect.
it's Lincoln Center. They don't need to make money.
No.
They don't.
That's what nonprofit means. And some great seasons this year for our subscription houses.
Oh my gosh.
On Broadway, Roundabout
has my
season
favorite
is
season.
incredible. MTC with both Eureka Day and Old Friends.
Old Friends is going to be
Friends, I
crazy.
can't wait.
It's so good.
And with that, we'll talk about leading actors in a musical in 2025, when you have Bernadette Peters, Lea Salonga, Audra McDonald, Idina Menzel.
I don't think Bernadette Peters or Lea Salonga.
I know.
Every single woman you've listed
heard
is
of.
losing to Nicole Scherzinger.
That's yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I
I
feel
don't
that
even
that's
know.
the
I don't
case.
even know what Old Friends ends up doing, because it's. I mean, it's like you're not. They're just. It's a bunch of songs.
Yeah.
All There's not a story. It's literally like a concert. It's fantastic. I saw it in London. I cried the entire show from the beginning to through the intermission. I just was weeping. It was beautiful. Bernadette is doing crazy things. but I don't know how they categorize it.
No, we've had reviews
Yeah.
be nominated before for Best Musical, so we know it's going to go probably into Best
Yeah.
Musical. But I don't know if any performers have been nominated for being in a review.
I think
off the top of my head.
if I'm them, I'm putting everybody as supporting.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I do think you could probably Bernadette doing "Gotta Get a Gimmick" is like one of the craziest things you've ever seen in your entire life. She plays the trumpet through her legs, like. So give her the supporting. I'm fine.
Have either of them gotten their Lifetime Tonys yet? Do we know off the top of our heads?
I don't think.
Because I could see them doing something like that
Yeah,
to
give it-
honor
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah, yeah.
performances.
Like a special.
Is
Some sort
give
of
them
special
achievement.
Tony. Yeah.
their Lifetime achievement. Because they will get it eventually. Both
I'm
of
also
them.
very curious who else is going to be in that cast because
Yes.
it was mostly West End performers.
Yeah,
in
like
the West
Gavin
End.
Lee was
I hope
in
they
that
bring
cast.
Gavin over because Gavin was incredible, and obviously they have him tap dancing, and not like as great as when he tap danced with 4 legs in SpongeBob, but like still really great. Or if he ends up doing the Beauty and the Beast tour because he was so good. He was Lumiere, and they turned Be Our Guest into a whole tap dancing number, and it was
incredible.
So whatever Gavin does, I will be in attendance.
Well, in a couple of Chicago transfers, we have Death Becomes Her and Boop.
Super excited about both of those.
And if you want to go ahead, Ashley, talk about a little bit about Sunset.
Well, me and Kate can talk
Yeah.
about it because we saw it Kate saw it twice in the same week.
I extended my trip to go see it again. That is how good Nicole Scherzinger is. Like, I don't think people understand.
It is nuts. And I have traditionally been very vocally loud against not enjoying filmed performances in a theater, right? Like I was not a fan of the West Side Story where they just they had the stage was just the front of the shops and then you had a video inside watching what's happening inside the store. It was not my thing. What Sunset Boulevard does is because of the fact that it's about like old movies, it is so well like choreographed in terms of not just like the choreography but the videography, and it's cool because no matter where you're in the theater, the screen is the size of the stage, and you're getting about this close away from Nicole Scherzinger's face is where they're shooting the camera from. So you're getting these giant blown up images of Nicole Scherzinger singing her face off, and it's just the acting.
It's so good. She's so good.
And all 4 of them are so good. And the fact that like she personally advocated to bring all 4 of them over with her, Tom Francis, Grace Hodgett,
Young,
and oh my God, Max, but that's not his name.
Oh my gosh.
So good. All 4 of them are so good. And I think in another year we weren't so stacked, you could see all 4 of them sweeping all 4 of those like categories.
Yeah.
Grace is I mean, her role is like less in Sunset. She's also the current Eurydice in Hadestown in London. Insane. So good.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of our other revivals, like I said, we have Mattress, we have...
I'm very curious about Mattress. I obviously am a New York City Center super fan,
Yeah.
but I'm also like, give us a fully staged, I want a castle. I want a fully staged
Yeah.
production. I don't want...
Even if it was like the castle from Spamalot, that
Right,
would be
like, I would-
something.
Yeah.
And honestly... What? But like, I
don't want a miniature castle.
Did
on
you
stage.
see the castle from Spamalot?
Yeah, at least
Anywhere
it looked
above
like
the
a castle.
mezzanine?
No, but like we were talking, like I think it was Ken Davenport was like, oh, people are like doing, like people love these like stage concerts and like showing that like that's what they want. And I was like, no, like just because people want to go see Titanic at New York City Center is not because they want to see a concert version only. All of us would prefer to see a giant ship
I want to
of
see the
Titanic
ship.
as it's sinking into the Hudson River. Like,
I want to see, like the furniture slide down the set like it
Yeah.
did in the original production.
right, and so I like that's where and no shade to Chicago, that's obviously still running on Broadway, which is the original 1996 New York City Center production of Chicago. But like I don't want that on. I don't want 20 of those shows on Broadway. I want fully giant. I want Sutton Foster
Yep.
climbing over a castle. But I really enjoyed that production, and I am really excited it's coming to Broadway. And more importantly, I think it's going to be great to actually have like a new licensed version
Yeah.
of Mattress, which is what they're doing here, which is basically so that high schools can go back and now do Mattress. That is a little less problematic and that has like more relevant music, and they can be like, they just did it on Broadway. Look, kids, it's cool. Wow, sorry, I just got really bright. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
There we go.
well, and also talking about Mattress has announced their cast for Broadway, which is
Yeah, it's
the
so good.
crazy cast. And I love that they're like Into the Woods did when they transferred, keeping a like similar level of star in those roles.
It's going to be a really interesting test, I think, for Sutton Foster. And I'm a huge Sutton Foster fan. I've been a huge Sutton Foster fan my whole life. But whether or not she has the name vehicle power to carry a show. Because obviously, like, she did Music Man, but she did that with Hugh Jackman. Yeah. She did Sweeney, but she did that with, yes, Aaron, but also Joe Locke. And I'm very curious to see if her name alone, because they're obviously big names, but big Broadway names, if Sutton Foster has that ability to, like, bring in the non-theater people. And I think she does in a way. Like, my parents love her, and I use my parents to test because they love Younger, and like they only know her as like the actress from Younger. But I am curious, and I'm excited to see, because I hope she does.
Yeah. But and there's people like Anna Gasteyer in that cast who are certainly names. You might not know her name, but you might be like, oh, I know her from that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see her. See if she can, draw an audience. And then
to get a new cast recording, which is all I ever want for a new.
Hopefully.
And then both Floyd Collins and Pirates of Penzance.
I'm so excited to finally see a production of Floyd Collins. You have no idea.
I'm so curious who's going to be Floyd Collins.
Yeah. That's a best actor contender right there.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because this year is very like
light.
In the way that we have a million best actresses, we have one currently
best actor.
James Monroe, I go hard. Tom Francis.
Oh yeah.
Darren Criss.
John Gallagher Jr.
Yeah.
Darren Criss.
That's it.
But it's like much smaller. And I kind of had like, sorry, no offense to bio jukebox musicals, but I was really not excited at all for It's a Wonderful Life. But what Jason Aglehart is doing is like crazy. Like,
he's got the voice.
I was like, I could record this and put this somewhere, and people would think it was actually Louis Armstrong. Like, he sounds so good. And I was talking to someone over the weekend who's working on the show here, and he was telling me that like he's so involved in like every step of the process. Like, he's working there. Like, he could be listed as like a co-director possibly. Like, he is like involved in the book, and he's like in every meeting. Like, he is so invested in it. And I'm like, okay, well now I want only good things for Jason.
Well, and you see that sometimes where there is an actor of that caliber who like wants to really involve themselves, and normally a really special performance comes out of it.
And then they're doing that workshop of that Bobby Darin musical, which I know nothing about Bobby Darin, but that if it does come, and I don't know if it would come this season, but another Jonathan Groff vehicle.
Hopefully not this season.
I don't want it to go this season.
I just don't. And not like it can come, but like if we get too many bio jukebox musicals, I'm going to be like, another one.
Well, it's like this year, all the shows were depressing, and I had like a solid like 20 days of, I wasn't seeing a show every day, but like of where I only saw like these incredibly sad shows. And I was just like, these are really sad. So I went to go see like Play That Goes Wrong or something to just reset.
We have a lot of happy shows this year.
Yeah.
There's one with a maybe happy ending. And then Once Upon a Mattress is fun.
Yeah.
Death Becomes Her is fun. Boop is
fun.
Fun, yeah.
I don't know anything about Boop, so it could end terribly.
Yeah, I
have to go back into black and
Boop
white.
twice in Chicago. Boop is a really fun show with a really high energy score, with standard Jerry Mitchell direction and choreography of craziness.
Do we think Jasmine gets a nomination in this crazy category here?
I would love that.
I'm just excited.
I don't see it happening.
I'm just excited to see like all these new, fresh female faces on Broadway. Yeah, these new like
in a year that's a lot of old Broadway faces.
Right, exactly.
All the legends, and then Jasmine Rogers and Helen Shen.
Helen J. Shen, if you don't, everyone go follow her. She's going to be a star, like a superstar. Like,
so good.
And it's every time I see her like at 54 Below, or I just saw her at Joe's Pub, I'm like, this girl is going to be a superstar. And like, it's wild now watching her like in the very early phase of her career. Because even like in The Lonely Few, like she had kind of a small role, but the one song she had was like such a standout. Oh, I love her. Yeah.
And I will say that role in Maybe Happy Ending, she definitely could be a contender for Best Leading Actress.
Ooh.
It's a very good role. So I'm excited.
Well, and then we also have to speak about opposite of new 2 Shakespeare shows coming this year. We have the new weird Romeo and Juliet that's coming.
And
The teddy
Othello,
bear.
right?
Sexy
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet.
Sexy Romeo and Juliet.
And of course Othello
Othello,
with
yeah.
Denzel Washington
Washington.
and Jake Gyllenhaal.
I'm really excited because I'm seeing Romeo and Juliet. Kate and I are next week in London, which is the Jamie Lloyd gray, bleak, black and white, sad, whispering into the mic like this, Romeo and Juliet. And then a month and a half later, I'm seeing the neon bright, the youth are fucked, Romeo and Juliet. And I was like, same show, completely different concepts, which is kind of fun, like to get those two.
The beauty of live theater.
Yeah.
Well, and then also to see a show like Our Town.
Kenny Lee?
Yeah.
One
Kenny
of
Leon,
Kenny's 3 shows?
Yeah.
At least.
3 that have been
Because Kenny Leon's also doing Othello, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Sweet at Home, Othello, and Our Town.
Yeah, 3.
There you go.
Yeah.
Michael Arden's up to 2.
Yeah.
Tina Lindo has 2.
What's Michael Arden's other one? Oh, yeah. yeah. And then some
no, 'cause
interesting.
He's doing a play, right? Am I making this up? Come back to me.
But then also like George Clooney making his Broadway debut in a play based on a movie he was in. That I believe he's co-writing the play.
I don't
Sure,
know.
George.
Not
Yeah.
sure at all.
Yeah, sure.
Thank
No, it's David Cromer, which
Oh.
at least is something encouraging. Yeah.
It's basically I keep confusing it with Goodnight Oscar. I'm like Goodnight Oscar. Oh no, Goodnight.
But to your credit, needing the T for the EGOT, the fact that he is doing it by being in a show
Yeah, instead of just producing
instead
it.
of producing, I admire heavily. I mean, good for him to.
Put in the
Apparently,
work.
I am counting Ben Platt because he's
Yeah.
not directing anything else. I may just be thinking ahead to Queen of Versailles, which may or may not come this season.
Yeah,
Who
we'll
knows?
see.
You know, the rumor apparently is that Kristen doesn't want to be up against Adina because she doesn't want. I don't think it's necessarily because of Adina, but because she doesn't want the press of being like she doesn't
Yeah.
want the whole season to be about her versus Adina,
Which it would be.
allegedly, right?
Yeah.
And that she's not.
Honestly, I think it's a good call.
I think so
it should
too.
wait
Yeah.
a season.
And what's the same thing with allegedly? Again, I don't know anything for sure. With the Next to Normal stuff, with Casey Levy not wanting to come again to be against Nicole Scherzinger again.
Yeah.
And so she
Yeah.
also apparently
also would
wait.
be a smart decision
Yeah.
to hold
Yeah.
off.
Because the Next to Normal, that's in London, just like they got, it's not their fault. They just got decimated by Sunset Boulevard. I think they're like, we don't want to come to Broadway and watch the same thing happen.
Yeah.
So they're like,
And
if we
then
just
the,
wait.
The
So
Kristen Chenoweth versus Casey Levy would be a great race.
Great race and a really fun matchup and completely different.
Yes.
And so I feel like that'll be I hope they both decide to wait also for our own
Did you
sanity.
come to this panel thinking we were going to talk 2026 Tony
Let's
Awards?
say that.
Because surprise.
Well, and also to talk about 2 new plays. We have The Roommate with Patty and Mia Farrow, and Left on 10th with Juliana Margulies and Peter Gallagher,
Yeah, those are.
which I keep forgetting about.
But you know who's really excited? My dad, because he loves both of those actors.
Oh my gosh.
It is for the Westchester dads.
Well, and then Tammy Faye transferring over from London.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I totally forgot.
I forgot about
Tammy
Tammy Faye. And that starts in like, what, a month?
Yeah, it's one of those things when they announced Christian Borle, I was like, of course it's Christian Borle. Nothing has ever felt more Christian Borle, ever, except for Andy Carl being now cast in Teeth.
Yes.
And I was like, again, Stephen Pascal was one of the best, like, incredible performances,
yeah.
but I was like, this just feels like Andy Carl. Not
Yes.
that Andy Carl is giving creepy old priest or pastor, but like so good. Like it's such a good cast.
It's great casting. Well, and then to see English also.
I
in
can't wait.
the roundabout
I missed
season.
English off Broadway, and
So did
I
I.
always regretted it, and so I'm
Same.
really happy.
Can I just say early pick for Best Play 2025? I'm sorry, I forgot what year it was. Yeah, that's
makes sense.
It's so good.
It won the Pulitzer,
It
right?
did win the
Yeah,
Pulitzer,
so I feel
yeah.
like it is.
A
It's not,
contender.
it's not a hot take, and I'm excited for Yellowface too. Like,
Yeah.
Roundabout season is
Yeah.
nuts.
I personally did not love Roundabout this year. And am excited to have a season that I'm excited by.
I again to everyone under the age of 40, you can do hip ticks, so the tickets are only $40, and they're all on sale now.
Yeah.
So
For
highly
every show.
recommend. $30. They're $30 tickets if you're under 40. It's one of my favorite programs, and the seats are good. And if you upgrade to Taptix Gold, which is $100 for the year, you can literally get almost any seat in the theater.
house.
Oh,
Which is
wow.
great.
Right. Yeah, they like it for $30.
Yeah,
so
love
it's awesome. Highly recommend.
It's worth the $100
I already got my
investment.
Pirates of
I
Penzance
just love that they're the only ones that are 40 and
Right.
below
Yeah.
because I just turned 36 and it sucks to age out of literally every discount
Hey,
program.
you become rich at 36. Did you miss
Yeah.
that memo?
Yeah,
That's how it works.
I
Well-
got more money and I decided to travel, so did not.
Well, and also Swept Away.
Yes.
Did you see that?
I saw Swept Away in DC. Kate saw it in
Berkeley.
Yeah. I'm so curious. I don't want to spoil anything. It's a show that I would recommend not being spoiled for. It is dark.
I
And
will
I'm-
say, front runner for scenic design, maybe.
Oh, yes. It's so beautiful. I've been a huge John Gallagher Jr. fan since Spring Awakening because that was my teenage show. And he is insane in it. Stark Sands, like it's great. I'm very curious how it's going to do because I think it's going to be a show that's really a really hard sell to non-theater people because of the like content of it. But sit to the first half and be like, woohoo! It's a little bunch of boys on a ship. And
I
then
mean, if they can like market like, hey, sea shanties,
Yeah.
you know,
the music is. I mean, again, and Avid. I knew nothing about them, so
Yeah.
I literally thought it was a original music. Like I knew it was their music. I thought it was an original musical. We get in the car coming back from DC. It's me and Ben, and I go to look it up, and I was like, oh, this is not an original. I had no idea. So it was great, and so it does. The music fits the show really, really well to the point that I had no idea that it was not original music.
And the Ava brothers have a pretty strong fan base.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them, but I think like, and I really liked the music. I just had not heard of them before
Yeah.
seeing the show. But I had friends that are fans, and I definitely think like they're gonna go see the show. They just need to like make sure that they know there's a Broadway musical. But I'm excited to see who ends up bringing in because of that.
Yeah.
Well, and to have to go back to the Tonys themselves, category-wise, we have not had any changes in a couple of years.
We should.
or additions or taking away.
Well, what's in there? Is it?
I think the last change was the reinstating sound design.
Good.
That's wild that they got rid of sound design.
Yeah.
Like, who's like, you know what's not important? Hearing a
Sound.
show.
But yeah, what would we like to see?
Oh, genderless award categories.
100%.
It's silly and outdated. And I say this every time because people are like, no, you can't get rid of acting categories. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just advocating for changing the names of the categories and having
adding.
different ones. Yeah, adding categories. Like, give me a ensemble cast. Give me a,
I also, my goal in life, which is my goal, I mean, I can't do anything about it, but theoretically, would be I want a supporting and a featured category. Like,
Yes.
I want best actor, best supporting, and best featured, because I feel like there are so many parts where you get, like, again, not so much now because of the way they change Suffs, but like the Grace McLean in Suffs, where you get like a really stellar performance, but it's really small.
Well, I was going to say Leslie Kritzer.
Leslie
in
Kritzer's a
Spam
really good example.
Exactly.
Like, she comes in, has her incredible moment, and she gets rewarded for that, even though like it's hard to compare that to what Shoshana Bean is doing.
Or like Lindsay Mendez.
Or Lindsay
in
Mendez, who's basically a
Merrily.
leading
Yeah.
actress.
and in that you would separate the Keisha Lewis and Shoshana Bean because those are two different kinds of roles.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of doing new role versus revival.
Yeah.
Because I think you judge a role that you've seen somebody else do so much more, like so much differently than you would somebody who is originating a role and bringing an aspect of themselves to a role.
And this is like, well, this will never happen, but like I would love a best replacement. Like I would
Yeah.
love a best replacement.
Yeah.
Just to get Jordan Fisher, mostly. But or like Laura Benanti in My Fair Lady. Like one of my favorite performances I've ever seen, and it was a replacement cast.
Thank goodness she got an EP though. Like,
Oh, I know. I love her.
I should do that more often.
A lot of the time you have a replacement who really energizes a show
Yeah.
in a way that it hasn't before.
Well, I think you'd also see shows taking that risk. Like I think like if, for example, if you had a best replacement category, like you might see Kimberly be like, you know what? Maybe we could stay open because we could get Carolee Carmelo to come do Broadway,
Yeah.
and then she could win for Kimberly on a Broadway, and that brings a whole new audience. Like, and I think of that with that category, you literally could get people like them taking these risks to keep showing.
Or would just an Alphaba win every year? Like that's the other thing. Like, is that what would happen?
I don't think they would win every year because I don't think every Alphaba is the same. But there've been a couple. Like I'd love Talia would have been. Yeah. I would just give her a nomination.
In terms of the design categories, I know there's always talk of like doing a projection design.
Yes, I would love a projections category.
I don't necessarily know if I hate it being lumped in with scenic or lighting, depending on the show. But I do think we have enough projections at this point to do a category.
And it's only going to get more. We're only going to see more projections as it becomes cheaper to do projections and less cheap to do full, beautiful.
Well, I think the biggest issue with projections is the voters won't know what is projections, what is lighting, what is scenic.
Projections, it's pretty like, that's a projection, you know?
Yeah. But I will say, like, that's when, like, what happened, because, like, what happened with Gatsby, or Great Gatsby this year, which is like, so my friend was there the night of the Tony voter, most of the Tony voters were there, and the projections kept going out. And there was an issue, they had some issue, and the projections just kept going out, and the screen kept turning black. And she was like, so I'm not surprised to get nominated because, and I honestly can't believe they didn't stop the show or like make them all come back because like that's so much of that show.
And remember the year before they canceled that performance of Parade because the projections were out.
And people were so shitty about it. And I was like, that's their show. What do you want them to do?
Well, and with Gatsby too, you have the projections, so much of the projections are like ingrained in the set, like the cottage there, like it's beautiful how it's done.
And if your screen keeps turning black, it's not gonna look good.
I definitely also think hair and makeup is a no-brainer.
Yeah, oh my God, it's crazy.
I'm glad Nikia Mathis got the special Tony. And to be honest, she would probably win just every year at this point. Like if you've seen Cats, the Jellicoe Ball, she did those wigs. But it just seems like sometimes people will suggest categories and it's like, well, how do you judge that? Like, how do you notice what good stage management is from an audience perspective? But for like wigs and makeup, that seems like you go see a show and you're like, those wigs suck, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Or those wigs are fantastic.
Well, and they used to have a best musical direction category, and like something like that, that's incredibly hard to judge from a voter's perspective. Which, like, I understand why they got rid of it, although I think that we should be, more forthcoming about what these roles do in the theater. There's a session later today that I think is called, like, What the Bleep Does a Producer Do? Like, because it's true, so many of these roles and what they are is gatekept by our industry. And I think, in addition to putting every category on television, talking about when there is a category like a best sound design, explaining what that is, because it's not just it's what you hear. Like it is, but explaining what these things are, I think would do a lot of good.
Like if I was in charge of the Tony Awards, it would all be televised and it would be an 8-hour event,
an all-day marathon.
8-hour. Just all day. This is Tony Day. Nothing else is on any channel. But it would be like where you have sound design and then you give clips of what the peak sound design in those shows are. Like when you do the nomination for Cabaret, you hear them talking on the like phone and it's all muffled, like that specific kind of sound design of like, this is what the sound design is represented for the show. Yeah. I don't know, that would just be so cool. And it seems like we got more behind the scenes in the Tonys when the first half was on PBS, way throwback to the 90s. But yeah, I really miss that aspect.
Same, we're like, this is like a silly one that I really want, but like I want best song. Like then if you're so then a song like maybe Limpika doesn't win, but like Woman Is wins, or like maybe The Notebook doesn't somehow get nominated for score despite having one of the best scores of the season. Yeah. But like My Days can get there, and then you can get Joy Wood's like, I mean. The thing about the Tonys is they just like need to be cooler. Like they're just not cool. Yeah. And I wish they like could understand.
It's very stuffy.
They need to get like the Kamala HQ team to like teach them how to like do cool things. Like the idea that you have a song like My Days go super mega viral like 2 weeks after the Tony Awards and no one's like, it would probably be good. to like do something with that. Like that would be like our biggest event of the year. Like maybe we should.
Remember when they weren't gonna let Stereophonic perform
Yeah.
at the Tony Awards?
I mean, they barely did. Let's be clear. You blinked and you missed them.
Yeah. They need to hire the theater lovers to make the memes. Like that's what they need. Like, but like for real though, like this is the thing. Like we love the Tony Awards so much, all of us in this room, obviously, and I just wish I could make it feel cooler.
Yeah.
Kate, I know you did a fan voting for your own awards.
Yes.
This year, and I assume that all of you pay attention to things like Drama Desk, Drama League, Broadway.com fan awards, other fan awards. What do you glean from those? What could the Tonys learn from those? What are your favorite things about non-Tony theater award things?
Well, I think a show like Dead Outlaw, which I loved, did surprisingly well in the awards like that. So I think looking at specifically off-Broadway awards, you see shows that might try and make a transfer, like a show like that, or Buena Vista Social Club, or something like The Connector, Teeth again.
Teeth is not coming to Broadway, and I think that's good.
It's beautiful.
It should not come to Broadway.
It'll run at New World Stages for 100 years.
Yeah. Something that I came across is that the ensemble actors in this town need back braces because they're carrying these shows.
Yeah.
And people are obsessed with ensemble members. I know personally, like, I follow tons of theater industry folks on the socials, but the people who like I'm consistently checking their stories are the Celicias, the Tommies, the JJ Neiman's, the
Danny
people,
Quadrino.
Yeah, like the people that are like really carrying these shows 8 times a week, consistently swinging on 45 minutes into the show in a brand new role. Like, people are obsessed with the ensemble cast members, me being one of those. And I think that those people need to be more recognized.
Well, to go back and talk specifically about swings and understudies, and to go back to The Great Gatsby, their swings and understudies are continuously on.
Literally all
I mean,
the time.
but
All the
right
time.
now it's a epidemic, right? Like, and Juliet, I mean, they've been having like constant like split tracks and and it's Hadestown, like all of this. And again, part of it I think is because we are in like a rise of COVID again and whatnot. But like, I also think that just becoming all of the shows are undercast, and there's not enough performers for coverage. Right?
Actors also get vacations, which is important.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like scheduled and planned outages, and I think definitely when we're in summer, and people right after the Tony Awards, especially for a new show, that's like you've done the Tony season, and now it's like, oh, I'm going to take a week off, or I'm going to go do this out of town trial. I'm going to leave Gatsby and go be in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Like shout out to Austin Colby. Like it's like things like that where people right now, because there's so much going on, are doing planned leaves of absence, or they're going to go do a show at the Muni for 2 weeks.
If only there were more actors in New York that could be in these shows.
Something else I think
Go ahead.
Okay, something else I've noticed, at least a little bit, is I feel like directors, stage managers, company managers are kind of being more diligent with getting covers into cover rehearsals to make sure that everybody is ready. I know there was a point in time when, not ready for stay, at least they're trying. There was a point in time where if someone was out of a show, if you are a big enough fan of that show and had seen that show enough, then you knew who was going on. You'd seen that cover already because that cover always goes on for that role. Where now we have we might get the 5th Gatsby cover, instead of who we're used to seeing, which I think is super cool and interesting. I'll go see a show 1,000,000 times if I can see different people in different roles. So I don't know. I feel like the Tonys need to recognize that shit though.
Well, in a show like Wicked, for example, has a really deep bench where if they need to, they can call in someone.
They called in Talia
swing,
like a month ago.
For like a day.
For 2 shows.
Yeah, which they can do, but a show like The Notebook doesn't have
Yeah.
a deep bench like that. And obviously, the longer you run, the more actors who have been in your show you acquire. But I just think that we need to, when a show is new, have that coverage.
Yeah, for sure.
Zach, to go back to your question, we went on such a tangent. But to answer your question about like what can we glean from the smaller award ceremonies, is that one, I think that they're more they grasp change a lot faster, which I think like we've already seen some of these awards go to genderless awards categories. We've already seen some of them expand their voting pool. I think that there's a lot of things that the Tony Awards are a little behind on, and I do wonder sometimes if because the Tony Awards are such an institution that they're not changing as fast, and there's also like, you know, it's harder to get on the Tony Awards nomination panel than it is to join the Outer Critics Circle panel. But I do think that we can learn from them in terms of, hey, what are some award categories that we should be acknowledging right now? I also think that I would like to see, especially theater as a whole, look at some of the regional awards as well, because there are awards, like we always talk about the Tony Awards, we always talk about the Drama Desk. There are regional theater awards in every single city. There's the Henrys in Denver and or maybe LA. I don't remember which one's which. But there's like Chicago has their own awards. DC has their own awards. And I think that if we can find ways to uplift those, because usually people don't follow theater outside of New York, and that includes people who don't live in New York. And if we can find ways like the Tony Awards with the Regional Theater Award to make that more public, and talk about more of these theaters and what they're doing outside of this city, then people can find that. Because one of the questions that I get asked the most is, how do you find out about all of these shows in other cities? And I'm like, because I'm insane and I look them up all the time, but there isn't like one place to go. Like you can't just go to Today Tick. Well, you can go to Today Ticks. I use it all the time, but you have to change your city. Why do you have to change the city? Why can't I just go to one website and see every single production happening across the country?
I want to be able to go onto a website and type in Legally Blonde and then being like, here's 8 cities that are playing Legally Blonde in the next 6 months.
And you can look that up on like the MTI.
Yeah, the MTI website. Yeah.
But they that's only for shows that have the rights out. You can't look up like a world premiere production of like, you know, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I don't know what it's, Queen of Versailles. Like so how do you find out about those? And I want to know more about theater that's happening before it gets to Broadway, before it gets to the Tony Awards.
And that's the only way. This goes back to like every conversation I feel like we have this whole weekend, which is the idea of like, shows need to come to Broadway with a fan base already there. Yeah. We shouldn't have no idea what a show is when it's opening on Broadway. Like that is nuts. To expect someone to have no idea and to spend $100 on a ticket to something they don't know anything about.
Exactly.
But I'll also say a show like Shucked, that came to Broadway with no one really knowing anything about it. There are ways to have a show come to Broadway and have the knowledge.
And where is Shucked playing right now?
And Shucked also made sure that once it opened, that you knew everything you needed to know.
And it closed.
Yeah.
If Shucked had come in with like a cast recording already out and like they did the one like secret regional production in Salt Lake City or whatever, but like
and there was one in Texas like 5 years ago when it was still the Hee Haw musical. But it's like Shucked should have been a hit. Shucked should still be open. Shucked is going to do insanely well on tour.
And regionally, and in the junior version where they cut out half of the jokes,
But let me tell you, Robert Horn will write jokes just as funny.
Right.
That are appropriate.
Oh yeah.
That high school version is going to be so funny.
I saw we had other people who had questions, and I wanted to share.
We have time now if anyone else has questions.
We have 1 minute.
What would your best musical season look like for musicals that weren't nominated for best musicals?
Ooh.
like any season?
For this season, like replace all the Best Musical nominees with shows that weren't nominated for Best Musical.
The Notebook, 5 times.
Yeah, that's the correct answer.
I would actually put hot take. I would put Days of Wine and Roses in there.
I was also gonna say that. I honestly, whether or not you like enjoyed watching Days of Wine and Roses, which I think is a different conversation,
Yeah.
it was a really well written musical.
I was miserable that entire time, but it was good.
And it's not like Adam Gettle's specific music in that is not my, like I don't listen to it, although the like still in my head. But like I was like, this is a dramaturgically sound musical.
Yeah. Also a decent book.
Yeah, really good book.
Not an ensemble that carries the show.
No, an ensemble that could have been a
Speaking
Yeah.
of
Could have been.
ensembles that carry shows, Hard
Basically
Rock and
was a
Roll
two-person
would
show.
definitely.
I mean, imagine how lucky to be one of those ensemble members who's in like 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Here Lies Love would be in that 5.
God, I miss your life.
Do I go? Once Upon a One More Time?
Yes.
That's my like dark horse.
My favorite. I'm not joking. Okay, I talked about this yesterday, but like, I went to Once Upon a One More Time, the junior version. They did it like last week. MTI has a program in the city called iTheatrics, and it's where they do these 1-week programs where they get kids from all over the country to come to New York for a week, and they put on a junior production of a show, and it's like how they kind of workshop it. And they did this. It's like 75-minute Once Upon a One More Time with like 50 children. I cried through the entire thing because it was so cute, and they were so cute and so talented. And it was like, I was like, they fixed every problem with the book. They took stuff from the DC production that I really liked. There was a whole part in the DC production where they really went on strike, and they all had like fun signs. They brought that back in. Like they have the Flatbush joke in there, but then instead like she goes, we're going on strike. And that entire scene, they're marching to the narrator's castle to go protest. And then they're like, okay, we're not gonna make it tonight, so we're gonna take a nap, and like we're gonna go to bed. So they make camp before they go back to their walking. And I'm like, it's like such a small difference, but it makes sense. It was like, we're just wandering through the forest. like, and I was like, oh, it was so good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to remove Once Upon a One More Time and put in Harmony because I think it's...
No, absolutely not.
Oh my, see,
I'm not a fan.
I love
Yeah.
Sorry about
Yeah.
it.
Chip.
I don't care. That is a hill I'm gonna die on.
No, I love Harmony.
I was not a fan of that
Well,
show
and
whatsoever.
with JT's hill that he's going to die on, we're
Well-
going to wrap it up.
You know where you can go?
Great transition.
Wow. Copy
JT,
that.
you can go to Hell's Kitchen.
Fine. I'll go see it twice now.
Thank you
Save you a seat.
Thank you for coming out today to our first ever live recording for the Bloop Network. You can listen to our other shows, Thrash and Treasure, and Around the World in 80 Plays. I'd like to thank our lead producer at Bloop, Aaron Ware, and my wonderful panelists up here, who I'm lucky enough to get to call my friends. You can follow the show at EGOT_podcast on X and Instagram. Thank you all so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of your BroadwayCon.
We'll see you next season. After 47 more shows open.
Bye.
Oh, perfect.
I just sent it in message.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much.
What? Who are you married?